I asked Mechila that I'm looking down on you. I don't like to look down on people. I just spoke in Florida, so they had me set up like this, and I took the ständer down because I don't like to look down. But you did all this work, so I don't want to fall off the bridge. Okay. Anyway, good evening, everybody. It's a schutz to be here. Schutz to be here. I'm sorry, forgot about the mic. So it's very hard to speak here in Beth Gavriel because you know all my stories. You watch me every Motzei Shabbat. I can't repeat anything. But I hear that Motzei Shabbat got a little smaller, so maybe there's some people here that don't know all the stories anymore. So tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about Sefira. We're in right now. We're counting Sefira between Pesach and Shavuos. And I don't think I'm going to be here before Shavuos, so I'm going to speak a little bit about David HaMelech tonight and what he has to do with Kabbalas HaTorah. So, there's a very big connection between Pesach and Shavuot. Because in the Torah, the way you know when Shavuot is by counting 49 days from Pesach. So if you don't know when Pesach is, you don't know when Shavuot is. As long as you know when Pesach is, you know when Shavuot is. It's the only holiday that's written that the way you get to know the date of the holiday is by counting from the holiday before. So Chazal says that we see from here that there's a very, very big connection between Pesach, between Pesach and Shavuos. So there are three people in the Torah that I like to speak about a lot. Each one, I think, earned their last name. Avram Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, and Yaakov Avinu. So their last name was Avram our father, Yitzchak our father, Yaakov our father. They're the three of us because they began the Jewish religion. But there are three other people in the Torah that did not begin the Jewish religion, but they have a last name, so to say. Yosef HaTzadik, Moshe Rabbeinu, and David HaMelech. I feel, and this is what I'm going to speak about tonight, this is very new, I've never said this before. I feel that from Pesach until Kabbalas HaTorah, until we get the Torah, which is Shavuos, you have to have all three of them. Each person in this room has to have a piece of each one of them. Tonight we're going to talk about David HaMelech. David HaMelech was born on Shavuos. David HaMelech died on Shavuos. David HaMelech, we know, came from Rus. Rus is a Megillah that we read on Shavuos. Her name was Rus. If anyone does the gematria of Rus, we know that Rus equals 606. She was Makabel 606 mitzvot when she became a ger, because she had 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach. So that's why we read Rus. Also, if you add a hey, she accepted Hashem. And if you take the word Rus and you add a hey, it spells Torah. So there's a very big connection between Rus and getting the Torah on Shavuot. So Yosef HaTzadik was Pesach, was Mitzrayim. Yosef HaTzadik came down to Mitzrayim, prepared Mitzrayim for Yaakov and his children. And we know that Yosef HaTzadik was sold down to Mitzrayim. Why was he called Yosef HaTzadik? Tonight we're not going to speak about him. Why was he called Yosef HaTzadik? Because he represents a Jew in Galut. He was sent from Eretz Yisrael, from his family. He was sold. He was separated. He was sent to the worst place in the world. We have to have this echo? Is this like... I keep hearing myself. Okay. Anyway. They put the echo on usually for guys who sing. I don't sing, so... No, you don't know why there's an echo. Okay. Do the people in the back hear me if I don't use a mic? No, okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll have to hear myself a whole night. So, Yosef HaTzadik represents each one of us, every Jew in Golus. What happened to him in Golus? So we know that Potiphar's wife, who was very immoral, tried to bring him down to her level. He fought her. He ran away. He ended up in jail. He came out of jail and he became Yosef HaTzadik. He was able to fight his evil inclination. So every Jew, before we get the Torah, we have to go through this struggle, since we're all in Golus. If you're not listening to me the first time I say, you can always hear it the second time. So this is Chazara. I wish they would have had my Rebbe when we learned Gemara, if he would have had this. It would have amazing. We would have learned and chazared it in the same voice. It's beautiful. So, okay, we need the technicians to work on it. Anyway, so Yosef HaTzadik, everyone has to have, by Shavuos time, you have to be able to fight evil inclination. I'm not talking about Facebook tonight. But for sure by Shavuos you have to get rid of it. And you have to get rid of all that stuff that you have on the internet. You got to be Yosef HaTzadik. You have to be able. I know people say to me, Wallerstein, it's America. What's wrong with you? You know, you don't get it, man. You just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't have Facebook, so I don't get it. But truthfully, that's what Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik was dropped into Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim had Facebook. Mitzrayim had Twitter, whatever it's called. Mitzrayim had cell phones, and they had text messages. And in fact, last week, when we read the Torah, it said, don't go in the ways of the Mitzrayim. They had every most terrible thing that's possible. But Yosef HaTzadik went to Mitzrayim, and he brought up 2 children. And when Yaakov came to meet them, they saw that his children were Jewish kids that had nothing to do with the Mitzrayim. And Yosef did not assimilate. So we're marching 49 days from Pesach to Shavuos. One of the midot that we have to have is the midah of Yosef HaTzadik, and that is that in Golus, we cannot assimilate. But that's not the subject matter for tonight. The next one that had a second name was Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, we know, if you've ever heard my Moshe Rabbeinu CD, went through a lot in Mitzrayim. And Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of the Jews when they left Mitzrayim. And where did he take them? He took them to get the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu is very important. And as you know, I speak a lot about Moshe Rabbeinu, that his disability, he wasn't able to speak. He couldn't talk. He had a lisp. He didn't think that anybody would listen to him. He told Hashem, nobody listens to me. Like some kids think, and some parents think, nobody ever listens to them. And he was adopted. And he was abandoned. And he had a personality conflict. He didn't know if he was an Ish Mitzri or an Ish Ivri. He had a very hard time. But he was able to overcome it. And he was able to become the leader of Klal Yisrael. Everybody has to have the inner strength by the time we get to Shavuos to be able to overcome all our inabilities. All our sveikos about ourselves. All these questions that we have, that we think, that I spoke about it this past week, whoever was here Matzah Shabbat and saw my share, we spoke about the moth. All the people that look in the mirror in the morning and say, I can't do anything. Every person in this room, I was, a few weeks ago I spoke at the, not actually the funeral, but actually at the Shloshim, 30 days after the suicide of a Jewish girl. So they asked me to come speak. It was probably the hardest speech I was ever asked to come speak. What do you say? What can a person say? What can you say? So I got up and I said the following. I said, I didn't really know her. But I have to tell everybody that no matter the tragedy, when I was standing there, the tragedy of a person taking their own life, or of a person leaving this world, I always wonder, why do we sit shiva? Why do we get so upset? Why do we rip our clothing when someone close to us passes away? According to Judaism, you leave this world and you go to a much better place. You sit next to Hashem. You go to Gan Eden. So what are we upset? This world, this world is a terrible place. So why are we upset? We should say, like when someone's leaving in the middle of a snowstorm and they're getting on JetBlue and they're going to Florida, to Miami, we're like, oh man, I wish I could go with you. I'm jealous. So when someone dies, you should go to the Beis HaKvaros, to the cemetery, and say, oh man, I wish I could go with you. I'm jealous. But we don't do that. We cry and we rip our clothing and we sit on the floor. But we believe in Gan Eden. And we believe that a neshama, a soul, goes to the next world and sits next to Hashem. What are you so upset about? And then everybody tells you, oh, he's in a much better place than we are. So if he is in a much better place than we are, what are you getting upset about? What are you upset about? What's the tragedy of dying? we're going to Florida, so to say. Florida for the spiritual being. Right? It's a big question. And the answer is that the tragedy, the reason we sit shiva, the reason we cry, and the reason we rip our clothing is for one reason. We know that that person is in a good place. But we rip our clothing because that person's potential is over. They can't make a bracha. They can't make someone smile. They can't help an old lady cross the road, or a young girl cross the road, or themselves cross the road. They can't do anything anymore. Life, living life is such a precious thing that even, listen to this, that even though you know that that person is going to a better place, but to lose a life, to lose potential of doing a mitzvah, of making someone smile, not being able to do that again, that's a reason to cry, that's a reason to rip your clothing, that's a reason to sit on the floor. So I did not meet this girl, and I did not know this girl. They asked me to speak because she was a very close friend of one of the girls that I teach. And I said to all of the people that were sitting there, I said, we need to learn from what happened here. She can't make anyone smile, but we can. So a person who thinks that they're worthless, I can't do anything. You can go into an apartment building, stand by the door, and when someone's going out in the morning, say, good morning, hi, you look really good. Now, I'm not talking about the guys, standing by the door in an apartment building. Rabbi said I should tell all the girls that walk out they look very good. To be very careful what I say. Any lady over 90 you could say it to. Okay? And that does not mean 3 women that are 30 years old that are walking out together. I know how the guys are thinking. Okay, I said it, over 90, no Rabbi, okay. But seriously, all of us have the potential to make a child smile, to help somebody, to do a mitzvah, to make a bracha. Make a bracha, to bless Hashem. You can't do that in the next world. You can't make a bracha in the next world. So everyone has that chance. No matter what your disability is, no matter what your pain is, no matter what you're going through, everybody has the koach to make somebody smile. Moshe Rabbeinu, there's nobody that ever went through more than Moshe Rabbeinu went through. After he became the leader of Klal Yisrael, he continued going through, the Jews continuously giving him a hard time. And a few weeks from now, we're going to be learning Pashas Korach, where Korach went after Moshe Rabbeinu. We're going to learn Pashas Shlach, where he had to deal with the Meraglim. It didn't end. It never ended with Moshe Rabbeinu. When he was a leader, and he took all his disabilities, and he overcame them, and he became the leader of Klal Yisrael. To be able to be makabel the Torah on Shavuos, you have to have the ability to live in the worst place, like Yosef HaTzadik, and not be affected by it. Not bring it into your house. Yosef HaTzadik's house was not an Egyptian house. It was a Jewish house. You have to be a Moshe Rabbeinu, where no matter what you're going through in life, you can overcome it. Your disability becomes your ability. You use whatever pain that you're going through to help others. But tonight, my shir is about the person who was born on Shavuos. My shir is about David HaMelech. Because we all know that the Medrash says that when the Jews got the Torah, each Jew that was standing on Har Sinai, and we were all on Har Sinai, right? That's where that whole thing started with saw you at Sinai. Really, that whole dating thing, saw you at Sinai, how can you say, yeah, I didn't see you at Sinai? It's from a Medrash. The Medrash says that every Jew, till Mashiach comes, was all by Har Sinai. Every one of us was by Har Sinai. That's where that whole thing came from. So I think that before we can get to Har Sinai on Shavuos, we have to understand who David HaMelech is. Tonight, that's who we're going to talk about. So, David HaMelech's great-grandmother, actually, was Rus. And it's very important for us to understand who Rus was, and then we're going to go into a very exciting story. So, Rus was a Moaviyah. Rus and Arpa, 2 sister-in-laws, actually I believe they were 2 sisters, the daughters of Eglon, not a good guy. They were Goyim, and they married 2 Jewish men. Machlon and Kilyon, the sons of Elimelech. The point that I want to make is as follows. Elimelech died, Machlon and Kilion died because they didn't give tzedakah. They ran away from the Jews. They ran to Moab, they ran away from Eretz Yisrael. And now, all that was left was their mother-in-law, Naomi, Arpa, and Rus. And the two of them, Arpa and Rus, were walking Naomi back to Eretz Yisrael. And Naomi said to her two daughter-in-laws, Lechna shovna isha lebeis ima. Go home. You're Goyim, you're not Jews. Don't hang out with me. I'm going back to Israel. Go home. Hashem imachem chesed kasher asisim ememesim imadi. Hashem will do for you chesed, just like you were good to my children and you were good to me. Go home. You're princesses of Moab. I have no money. I have nothing. You two married very rich boys and they lost everything. Go back home. You're not Jewish. What are you going to do with me? Go home. You're princesses. Go back to Moab. Vatomer, Naomi, again, Shoivna b'noisai, go home. Lama telachni imi. What are you going with me for? Ha'oidli banim b'meyai. You think I'm pregnant? That I have children in my womb? You're following me? You think I have more kids that you can marry? Third time. Shoivna b'noisai lechna. Go! I'm too old to get married. I'm not going to have any more children. And this goes on, and this goes on, and this goes on, and she continues to tell them to go home. But the Siena Koilam, and Rus and Arpa begin to cry, but the Bchena owed, and they continue to cry, and here it is. Vatishak Arpa Lachamoisa. Arpa kissed her mother-in-law. Goodbye! Kiss goodbye. I'm out of here. Rus, dafka. And Rus stuck to her. Dafka, devek, glue. She stuck to her. She didn't leave. And you all know the story. After that, Arpa went back, and Rus, of course, which if you'll listen to me, it's Hashem the next couple of weeks, I'll be talking about the whole story of Rus, but that's not where I'm going tonight. And Rus married Boaz, and Rus became grandmother of David HaMelech. Rus became the great-great-great-great-grandmother of Mashiach ben David. What's the difference between Arpa and Rus? And what came from Arpa from that night? So, there's a lot of midrashim, but I'll tell you what happened. The Medrash says, that night, Arpa left, and she was with 100 men that night. 100 men? And you'll excuse me for saying this in a shul, and a dog. The Medrash says, it's not funny, it's pretty serious. From Arpa came a huge giant. And the giant's name was Goliath. From Rus came David HaMelech. Goliath, who we're going to talk about tonight, this giant, felt that he could never be destroyed. Because Arpa stayed with Naomi as long as she did, her reward was that she'd have a child that would be so strong that no man in the world could kill him, except for one. And that was David HaMelech, because David HaMelech came from Rus. So let's look at this for a moment. And I think that anyone who listens to this shir, Mitzvah Hashem, will walk out of here tonight a very different person, because we don't understand who David HaMelech was. We know he wrote Tehillim, we know he went through a very hard time, but we don't know where he comes from. So first of all, be very careful when you give someone a bracha. Because when Rus gave birth, if you look in Megillas Rus, Klal Yisrael said, actually when she got married, Klal Yisrael said, they gave her a bracha, that she should be like Rachel v'Leah. And everybody asks, why did they give her a bracha? You should be like Sarah Imenu. You skipped a few. Sarah, Rivka. Why did they give a bracha? You should be like Rachel and Leah. So this is what happened. David HaMelech's father was Yishai. Yishai, it says, never did an Aveira in his life. Had Adam and Chava not eaten from the tree, he would have lived forever. He never did an Aveira. There was a very big machlokes in the Jewish nation about Rus. Are you allowed to marry a Moaviyah, a female woman from Moab? The Torah says you're not allowed to marry someone from Moab. Why? Because the Jewish people went by Moab, and we were hungry, and we asked for food, and they said, no food, no drink. If you come into our country, we're going to kill you. So the Torah says a nation that has no kindness cannot mix their DNA with the Jewish nation. Therefore, a person from Moab is not allowed to marry a Jew. Now listen to this. This is amazing. When Sarah Imenu, when Avraham had the three Arabs the Malachim come to his house, so they said, Ayeh Sarah Ishtecha, where's your wife? We're here, we're eating. Yishmael is serving. Avraham Avinu is serving. Where's the lady? Avraham Avinu said, not by us. By us, the ladies don't serve men. V'hinei ba'ayhel. She's in the house. I know today women's lib, they don't want to hear that. Oh, she's putting us back in the kitchen? That's what Avraham Avinu said. When it comes to serving men, a woman's place is in the kitchen. She shouldn't come out and serve men. They're going to have thoughts about her. She might have thoughts about them. So when the Malachim asked, where Ayeh Sarah Ishtecha? V'hinei ba'ayel, she doesn't belong here. Says Chazal, when Avraham Avinu passed in that halacha, so in Shemayim they had to pass in the same halacha. And the reason, by the way, that's how, it's a long story, but Lot was not supposed to be saved. Lot was supposed to die in Sodom. He wasn't supposed to be saved. How do we know? Because they didn't send a special malach to save him. They only sent 3 malachim. So he wasn't supposed to be saved. Why wasn't he supposed to be saved? Because the only reason to save Lot was that from Lot was coming Rus. Rus came from Moab. Moab came from Lot and his daughter. So the only reason he was supposed to be saved was for Rus. But if Rus is from Moab and you're not allowed to have a Moavi in the Jewish nation, there's not going to be any Rus marrying anybody. There's not going to be a David HaMelech, so he wasn't supposed to be saved. But when Avraham Avinu said that a woman's place is in the kitchen when people come to eat, that means that when the Jewish nation came past Moab and they asked for food, you can't blame the ladies for not giving them food. Avraham Avinu said the ladies are not supposed to give them food. Therefore, the Torah says that since it's not a woman's place to serve men food, therefore the women of Moab shouldn't be punished. Therefore, you're allowed to marry a Moavi. Therefore, Lot was saved, and from him came Rus. But this machlokes, this argument, was raging for many, many years. Now, Yishai was a very big tzaddik. Yishai came from Rus. And he felt that maybe they were right. And the only way, we don't have time to go through it today, but the only way to purify his children at that point was to marry his shifcha, his maidservant. Then the child becomes a ger, and that's how they get out of the whole Moavi thing. That was his plan. So he went ahead and he told his wife that me and you, we can't be together anymore because the rabbis feel that I'm from Moab and you're Yisraelis, and therefore we can't be together. I'm going to marry my shifcha. I'm going to marry the maidservant, and I'm going to be with her, and I'll have a child from her, and that child will be for surely pure. So he separated from his wife. What happened? His wife said, what? My husband, Yishai, such a tzaddik, is going to have a child with a shifcha? This tzaddik is going to be at night with a shifcha? So she went ahead, and she went to the maidservant, and she said, I will give you as much money as you want. We're going to switch places. He'll never know that it isn't you. He'll think it's you. And that way, he won't know. Says Chazal, when the Jewish nation gave a bracha to Rus that from you it's going to be like Rachel and Leah. The bracha was for David HaMelech, who came from the same situation because Yaakov married Leah. He thought he married Rachel. He thought it was Rachel. They made a switch. It was really Leah, right? So now the same switch happened with Yishai's Shivcha, with his wife. But what happened? He was separated from his wife, and his wife became pregnant from that night. But he knew he wasn't with his wife. He thought he was with his maidservant. Which means that if he wasn't with his wife, and his wife is pregnant, means she committed adultery. She slept with another man. Which means that the child from this pregnancy is a mamzer. And a mamzer liyaber b'kal Hashem. Now Hashem, everyone thinks Hashem has a sense of humor. I don't know if Hashem has a sense of humor. But listen to what happened. Says the Navi in Shmuel Aleph that a little boy was born. Now, remember, the whole family thought this child was from adultery. Could it be that it was from Yishai? Because Yishai wasn't with her. He was with the maid. David HaMelech is born, flaming red hair, a redhead, with beautiful, the most beautiful. There's a medrash that says that whatever he looked at became happy and remembered all their Torah. And if you looked at a Russia, the Russia became totally sick and destroyed. He had eyes. It says his eyes, this is what it says, that his eyes were made up of every color of the spectrum. He had the most dazzling eyes that a person ever had. So here's this kid. All his brothers are dark-haired, dark-skinned, and a kid is born who they already are saying definitely came from adultery, a redhead, didn't say he had freckles, but he had a redhead with blue eyes. Ah! They said, sure! His father's not Yishai. His father must be a redhead. So they took this young boy who wrote the whole Tehillim, and they sent him to Beis Lechem into the desert. And they hid him away from everybody, that no one should know the shame, the terrible shame of the family. This was the mamzer. And they sent him to Beis Lechem. When Shmuel HaNavi was sent from Hashem to find the next Melech, he came to Yishai and he said, let me see all your children. And Yishai lined up all his boys. Of course, he didn't bring David. David he thought was a mamzer. And he looked at every single one of the kids. He said, this one, he's not the king. This one, he's not the king. He went through all 6. There's a machlokes if he had 8 sons or 7 sons. He went through all 6. He said, Yishai, none of these boys are the next king. Yishai said, well, there's one that I didn't bring you, but you don't want to see him. And Shmuel HaNavi said, why not? He's different. We think that there's hanky-panky with this guy. Yishai said, Shmuel HaNavi said, let me see him. Bring him here. They brought David HaMelech. He took one look at him. He said, that's the Melech. That's the king. That's the one that Hashem's anointing. Okay? So, you have to understand, everybody here. Baruch Hashem. I'm sure all of us have been called some names in the past, but none of us, Chas v'Shalom, was ever called an illegitimate child. David HaMelech's roots, where he comes from, was a question. Number one, his father came from Rus, who was a Moaviyah. Number two, his whole family believed that he came from an adulterous relationship and that he was a mamzer. Could you imagine today a child growing up with that on their head? This was David HaMelech. Now let's see what happened with David HaMelech. Vayasvu Pelishtim es machnehem. The Jews were fighting the Pelishtim. And there was the Pelishtim on one mountain, the Jews on another mountain, and all of a sudden from amongst the Pelishtim came a giant. Vayetze ish habenai mimachnois Pelishtim Goliath Shemo, his name was Goliath. Sheish Amos, he was 12 feet tall. The Koivan Achoshis Aroishoi, he had a copper helmet. And it goes into his shield, his helmet, his sword, his lance, all the weapons that he had. They were thousands of pounds heavy. This was a war machine. Who knew from his grandmother that he could never be killed by anyone. Okay? He gets up and he says the following. Vayomer ha-Plishti, and this Plishti said, Ani cherafti es marchos Yisrael. I challenge the Jews. Hayom hazeh, today, Tenuli ish, give me a man. I want to go one-on-one. V'nolacham yachad, and we'll fight. And we'll see who wins. He said, you know what, instead of having a huge war, the Philistines, the Palestinians against the Jews, let's have one-on-one. If I win, the Jews belong to me. If you win, the Philistines belong to you. But there's something much deeper that he said. He said, give me an ish. He was talking about Hashem. He said, I am here today to fight the Jewish God. Because Hashem is called Ish Milchama. So this Philistine got up against the whole Jewish nation and said, I dare anyone to fight me one-on-one. And everybody was scared. Shaul was scared. All the Jews were scared. It's a very long, I don't want to go through the whole thing, word for word. Anyway, this little boy shows up. And this is what he says. All the Jews, when they saw this giant, they ran. They were very scared. And one of the Jews said, did you see this giant? Did you see how huge he is? We don't have a chance. This little boy, David HaMelech, who the whole world thought was illegitimate, said, hey, what's the reward for the person who kills the Plishti? And they laughed. He said, this kid against the Plishti? This kid was a shepherd. So they brought him to Shaul. And he said the following. Shaul to the king, don't worry about this guy. Your servant, me, David HaMelech, little David HaMelech, redhead, with the blue eyes. I'm going to go, v'nilcham in my Plishti hazeh. I'll take this guy down. Shaul David, and Shaul the king said to David, you can't go fight a Plishti. Kinarata. You're a kid. You're a punk. Who Ishmael Chama Menara? This man is a warrior. So David HaMelech answers him and he says, I was a shepherd for my father. I was attacked by a bear and a lion. Not only did I kill the two of them, but the lion had one of my sheep in his mouth, and I got the sheep out of his mouth alive. I don't let one of my sheep that I'm responsible for get lost. The Medrash says Hashem saw this, and Hashem said, I picked the right leader. And I think this is a lesson for anyone who's a rabbi, a parent, or teaches in chinuch. Says that Hashem saw that any other shepherd would have said, okay, the lion got one sheep. I did very well. I chased him away. A lion can eat 20 sheep. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell the master, guess what? There was a lion, he attacked, he got one sheep. The master would say, thank God, you're amazing, only one sheep. David HaMelech said, one sheep is too many. One Jew gets eaten up by the lion. One Jew goes off the derech. One Jewish girl doesn't keep what she's supposed to. One Jewish guy doesn't do what he's supposed to. Too much! Not good enough to be a rabbi or a rebbe and say, I have 20 kids in my class, 18 were successful. Then you're not a teacher. You're not a rebbe. Not good enough to be a parent and say, 6 of my kids are right. Okay, it's a tour off the derech. I did well. Right? In baseball, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. Batting 600? Forget it. What baseball player ever batted 600? No. One sheep. You got to get it out of the lion's mouth. One sheep is too many. Anyway, Shaul had no one else. He took off his armor. He put it onto David HaMelech. Shaul was much taller, and the armor shrunk and fitted David HaMelech perfectly. And David HaMelech realized at that point that Shaul gave him an ayin hara, because Shaul realized that if his armor fit David HaMelech, that David HaMelech was going to take over his kingdom. And the second he realized that Shaul gave him an ayin hara, he said, there's no way I'm going to wear clothing that have an ayin hara that I'm going to be able to win. He took it off immediately. He said, I don't want any armor. I don't want any sword. I don't want anything. I'm going up one-on-one. What did he go up against this huge giant with? So everybody knows about his slingshot, but he didn't show the giant the slingshot. He had a stick. That's it. That's all the giant saw was a stick. He stood there with a stick. Listen carefully. Vayikach makloi biyadai. He took the stick in his hand. Vayivchalei chamisha chalukei avanim. He took 5 flat stones. Min hanachal. Vayasav oisei bechli harayim. He put them in his pouch. And he took his slingshot and he approached the Plishti. Vayelech ha-Plishti. This is a one-on-one that each one of us has every single day with the giant within us, our enemy, the Yetzer Hara. The Plishti in this story, this giant, huge giant, against this little guy who doesn't have the weapons, is the war that every Jew has when they wake up every morning. It's the war between you, your David HaMelech, against the giant, which is the Satan and the Yetzer Hara, with all his weapons. Facebook, internet, the music, the magazines, the newspapers. You walk down the street, the stuff that's on the walls, the immorality. Every day, look how many weapons the enemy has. What do we have? Chamesh Avanim. Not the ones you play, Kugelach. Chamesh Avanim is representation, says Chazal, of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. That's our weapon. That's it. It looks like we're going to get decimated. You come against us, against Facebook, with Chamisha Chumshei Torah, you don't have a chance. Wallerstein doesn't have a chance. He can talk till he turns blue in the face. You come against our music, our non-Jewish music, with Chamisha Chumshei Torah, get out of here. You can't rap to that. You can't dance to that. Put that on my iPod. You don't have a chance. It looks like we don't have a chance. But we do. Vayabed ha-Plishti, and the Plishti stared at this little boy. Vayavzehu, he embarrassed him. Ki hoyanar, because he said, you little boy, vadmoni, you redhead. Im yefei mare, and you're also very pretty. Hey, pretty boy. That's what he said. Here he comes against Goliath, the greatest warrior, and little pretty boy. Vayayma ha-Plishti el David. So the Plishti turns to David and he says, Ha-kelev anoichi? What do you think, I'm a dog? Ki ato be'alai b'maklois? Did you come at me with sticks? Vayikalo ha-Plishti es David be'elokov, and he cursed David HaMelech with his God's name. Says Chazal, why did he say dog? Because since he was such a giant, he knew that his mother, or was his grandmother Orpah, had slept with a dog. So he said, what are you, stupid? You think that's a true story? You think I'm the child of the dog? That you come at me with a stick? What are you doing? So the Plishti said to David, L'cha Eli, come to me, ve'etnos b'sarcha, and I will give your meat. I will kill you, and I will feed up your meat, your body, lo'if hashamayim, to the birds in the heavens, u'lebehemas asada, and to the animals that are in the field. The minute David heard this, he knew that the Plishti had lost. Why? Because the Plishti had made a comment that wasn't true. He said, I'm going to give your dead body to the animals, behemta, the animals of the field. Behema is a cow, a goat, a ram. They don't eat meat. So he listened carefully to what this giant said, to hear what Shemayim was sending him a message. And the minute the giant said that after I kill you, the behemoths will eat you. He said, no. The nevuah that came out of your mouth just told me that it ain't going to happen. So therefore, when he answered him, Vayomer David al Plishti, he said, you come against me with a sword, a javelin, and a spear. Now here's the boy that was set aside in Beis Lechem. And what does he say to this giant? V'anoichi ba elecha b'shem Hashem. I'm coming against you with nothing but the name of God. Elokei ma'arochos Yisrael asher charafta. The God of the Jewish nation that you embarrassed. He says, today, the Hais Risas Roshcha Me'alecha, I'm going to take your head off. V'kisicha, I will kill you. V'nasati pegar machne plishna mayom azel lo'oif hashamayim u'lechayos ha'aretz. I will give your body and the body of all the plishtim to the birds, the ravens, the vultures, and the chayos, the wild animals, not the behemoths. And we know what happened. He had the stones and he threw it at the Plishti, and it entered his head, and he fell on his face, and he took his sword. David HaMelech couldn't even carry the sword. Uriah opened it up for him, and he cut off the Plishti's head, and he brought it to Shaul. There is an amazing medrash that I have to tell you. And the medrash says, how did the rock penetrate this huge copper helmet that he was wearing? A rock cannot penetrate copper. So the Medrash says the following, and this is mainly for the men. The Medrash says that what were these 5 stones? He said these 5 stones were the stones that we used for bris milah. And he brings it down. The 5 stones for bris milah were, I believe, 2 from Avraham Avinu, 2 from Yehoshua, and 1 from Moshe Rabbeinu's wife. Oh, here it is. Okay. Chamisha Tzatzayim Lemila. In the old days, they didn't use a metal knife to do the bris milah, but they used a very sharp stone, as we see in the Chumash when the snake was swallowing Moshe Rabbeinu because he didn't give his son a bris milah. So it says that Tzipporah took out a tsar. Tsar is a sharp rock, and she gave her child a bris milah right away, and Moshe Rabbeinu was saved. So it says that these 5 stones were 5 of these tools that we use for bris milah. Shtayim were used by Avraham and Yitzchak, 1 by Avraham, 1 by Yitzchak, 1 by Tzipporah, and 2 by Yehoshua. And these 5 stones became 1. And he says that the stones, the malach of these stones, asked the malach of the copper that when David HaMelech throws this stone, please open up the copper we know that you can bounce off, become soft, and allow this sharp stone, it was a tzur, it was like a knife used for bris milah, and allow it to penetrate this Russia's head and kill him. And the Medrash says that the malach of the barzel, of the helmet, of the copper, said to the malach of the tsar, I'll make you a deal. If I allow this copper to become soft, that the stone will penetrate and kill the giant, from now on, bris milah can't be done with stones anymore. It has to be done with metal. It says the Medrash that from that day on, bris milah was always done with a knife, with metal, because of that deal between the malach of the tsar and the malach of the nechoshes. Well, much deeper in Kabbalah, what does this mean? Stones talking to copper. What's going on over here? That the only way to take care, to destroy the biggest giant, the biggest enemy of Klal Yisrael, which is immorality, is Shomer Habris. In the schus of the 5 stones that did the bris milah, Goliath was destroyed. That's the real meaning of this medrash. To destroy the Goliath, you have to be Shomer Habris. What happened here? Orpah goes one way, has a giant. Rus goes the other way, has David HaMelech. What's the difference between these two women? A moment in life. One stuck, one walked. Everyone in this room, including me, after 120 years, when you go to the next world and you give din v'cheshbon in front of God, He will show you many of these moments in your life. Should I go to the party? I really shouldn't. He just spoke about it. I'm going anyway. That 1 second, that 1 second, that one mistake of not dafka, of not sticking, of walking away, you can end up with 100 men and a dog. And it's not a joke. It's an expression. You can end up with 100 women and a dog. Look at the difference. In one moment, what happened here? We're stuck up or moved. From her came Goliath, from her came Mashiach. The Yetzirah tells you, okay, listen, she was with Arpa, she cried on her shoulder, she's a good Jew, she was good. Okay, so she left. Yeah, you left. Once you walk away, once you disconnect, once a person disconnects, like when Moshe Rabbeinu threw down the stick, it turns into a snake. You disconnect, you can't be a mata anymore. David HaMelech had the mata. The symbol, you've heard my share about the mata. The symbol of connection is a stick. The stick does whatever the hand does. All those who play baseball, all those who have a stick, put a stick in the hand. It has no power. You take the stick to this side, it goes to this side. You take the stick to that side, it goes to that side. A stick has no power. What did David HaMelech come to fight Goliath? What was the symbolism? I'm worried about you. I'm a stick in God's hands. God wants you dead, you're dead. It's not about me. Moshe Rabbeinu, the same thing. Mazeh biyodecha. Hashem said, what's in your hand? Moshe Rabbeinu said, mateh. 1 second in a person's life could be the difference between a dog and Mashiach. And that's what we learn from Megillas Rus. It's not a whole long story. She took off her sheitel, she put on pants, she went to the movies, she went onto Facebook. No, it didn't take 5 years to fall. That night, 100 men and a dog. Not the next night, not a week later, not a month later. She separated, out. In Rus, what did Rus say to her mother-in-law? Your nation is my nation. Your life is my life. Where you go, I go. Your God is my God. She connected. She disconnected. Bye-bye. You want to make it to Shavuos? You got a couple of weeks left. Reconnect. Disconnection can cause a fall in 1 second. One party, one look at the wrong thing on the internet, one text message, one phone call. There's a turning point. There's always a turning point. The turning point in a person's life is 1 second. Just 1 second. And that's what the beginning of Megillas Rus teaches us. Up a step to the right, Ruth stepped to the left, she stuck with her, and this is what happened. She got a David HaMelech because his great-grandmother said, my God, your God is my God. Hashem is my God. Her grandson or great-grandson, David HaMelech, stood up to the worst enemy in the world and said, I am not scared of you. Guess what? My grandmother said she's connected to God. Well, guess what? I'm also connected to God. So I don't care what you bring to the table. United States of America, Queens, Brooklyn, in my room. I don't care that there's internet and there's movies and all that and there's DVDs. It's not entering my life. Goliath, who's the Satan, you got a lot of different weapons. I don't got nothing. I got nothing. I have Shemar Bris. I got my 5 stones. I got my Shemar Bris. I got my Chamisha Chumshei Torah. I got my Tznius. I'll take you down. You know why? Because Yetzirah, I'm connected to Hashem. There's a famous story. You know I'm going to get to a story. I wouldn't let you down. So there's a famous story. There was a guy, Dizengoff. If you go to Tel Aviv, in Israel, there's a Rehov Dizengoff. Very famous. So there was a guy named Dizengoff. I don't know his exact mayor of Tel Aviv. I don't know exactly his political. What was he? Anyone here know? It was mayor? mayor of Tel Aviv. So, Dizengoff, mayor of Tel Aviv, heard about these Arabs, the Bedouins. Now, I don't know if you were ever in Israel, but I've been in Israel, and if you travel through the Judean desert, right, the back roads, so you see these black tents in the middle of the desert. They're called Bedouins. They live off the sand, off the desert. They don't have anything modern except a big fat, what's it called? TV dish on their roof. I'm serious. With cable television. Otherwise, it's all camels. But television they have to have because it's Goliath. Anyway, Dizengoff heard about these guys. He said, you know what? I want to go to the Judean desert. I want to see how Bedouins live. The Bedouin Arab lives. So, they have very funny customs. Actually, they say from Avram Avinu, from Yishmael. So, they have a custom that no matter how much they hate you or whatever, however they feel about you, if you come visit them, they have to give you a meal, and a place to sleep, and a present. And then, on your way out, they can kill you. But until then, they take good care of you. Anyway, so he goes with his officers, and he comes to this Bedouin, their tents, to this little village. And he goes in there, and he has coffee with them, and tea with them, and when they finish, so they say to him, okay, before you leave, it's our custom that, and this is really their custom, you could take anything you want from the village. Whatever you want. What does he want from a Bedouin village? But, he starts looking around, old pots, this and that, camels, that's not going to work in Tel Aviv exactly. So he finds a very nice hand-sewn blanket. And you don't want to insult them. You insult them, they'll kill you. So you don't want to insult them. You have to take something. So he takes this blanket. On his way out, he says to them, listen, if any of you Bedouins end up in Tel Aviv, look me up. Come to my house. I'll repay you the favor. And he gives them his card. Bedouins are going to come to Tel Aviv. Like, okay, he's not worried about it. Anyway, a year later, there's a knock on his door. He opens his door. There's 6 Bedouins standing at his door in their black garb. He said, I didn't really mean it when I said it. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shaknu baruch. Amen. Okay, so, you don't hear me? Okay. No echo? Okay. So, there's 6 Bedouins standing there, and they're like, we're back. Yeah. Okay. He says, come in. Gives them tea. Whatever it is. They follow him around the house. They never saw these things. Toilets. Flushing toilets. Sinks. Electricity. Psh. Very cool. Okay. They finish. I think this is really a true story, by the way. They finish. And he says to the 6 of them, okay, well, you did it for me. I got to do it for you. Anything you want in my house, it's yours. All right. They start looking around the house. Look at the lights. Maybe. Chandelier. No. They go into the kitchen, and all of a sudden they get in the kitchen, they're all excited. They're all screaming at each other. Sink. Sink. Vote. Sink. They all vote, they're taking the sink. They say, we would like your sink. He says, my sink? Yes, it's very wondrous. He says, happens to be, you don't need to take my sink. I just bought a new sink. I have it downstairs. I'll give you the new sink. So, okay, let's see it. They go down, they open the box. Beautiful sink like the one he had, just new. They're very happy. They pick it up on their shoulders. They walk outside. They put it on the camel. And they go back to the desert. Okay? Listen, when you tell someone you can take anything they want in a house, watch out. That's where the saying came. They took everything and the kitchen sink. Okay. Anyway, you don't know that saying. Okay. So they come back to their tent, and they're all excited. Everyone's crowding around. New? Not new. They didn't say new. What? What did you get? Sink. What sink? What is a sink? Oh, sink magic. That's the wrong, okay. That's a different one of my accents. So, they take the sink and they put it on top of a table. And they call the chief and everyone together. And he says, what is this? He says, watch. You turn the knob in the middle of the desert. And water will come and it will not stop until you turn it off. And they're like, miracle. Go ahead. They turn it. Of course, nothing. They turn it, nothing. They kick it, they bang it, they curse it in Arabic, they throw sand at it, nothing. Dizengoff fooled us. They put it back on a camel, they go back to Tel Aviv, knock on the door. He opens the door, now he's got 6 angry Bedouins. You gave us sink, doesn't work. We told you we want that sink, because that sink works. That sink doesn't work. He goes, did you connect the sink? Connect? What means connect? You know, pipes from the ground, the water, you connect it in the water. What do you mean? He says, you have to connect the sink. Come here, let me show you. And he shows them the pipes, and the pipes go all the way down the stairs. He goes, the sink doesn't give water. The connection gives water. So then they left without the sink, because in the desert there are no pipes to connect to water. Funny story. And I got a chance to do my little Arabic thing. But that's not what it's about. I'm a good Jew. I'm a great Jew. I pray. I do what I'm supposed to. But if you're not connected to the source, if you're not connected to God, you're a pipe, you're a sink that's unconnected. You can't give water. Ein bo mayim, bar, ein bo mayim. You first have to be connected to Hashem. Then you can be all kinds of different sinks. Hot water, cold water, with the spray, with more pressure and less pressure. But the first thing a person has to do, he has to be connected to Hashem. Said Rus, the only way for me to live my life correctly is your God is my God. That's number one. We got to connect. Your nation is my nation. Everything. But first, I need your God to be my God. If your God is my God, I am connected. Arba, and from that connection came David HaMelech. David HaMelech could look his enemy in the eye and say, you ain't nothing but a giant. I am connected to Hashem. And that came from his grandmother. From holding on. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let go. Don't give up. Obama, Schmobama, Iranians, politics has nothing to do with us. We're connected to Hashem. These are all Goliaths. These are all giants, brandishing their big swords and their copper helmets. Who cares? We are connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you're connected, all you need to do to get water is turn the faucet. If you're not connected, you can turn the faucet all you want, you'll get nothing. That was David HaMelech's secret. That was Rus's secret, girls. And that's Mashiach's secret. So Mashiach comes from Rus and David HaMelech. 1 second, one decision, one time saying, I'm not going. I'm changing. Some of you know this. I'm going to end with this. Some of you know it, some of you don't, but I think it's the greatest story when it comes to a second in a person's life. I'll tell it to you very fast. I've said it here the first time I spoke. So there was a young lady who lived in Chicago. Anyone here know the story? Okay, good. So she lived in Chicago. You still don't hear me? Oh, wow. There was this young lady who lived in Chicago. And she was in a family, she came from a family that wasn't very religious. In fact, they didn't know much about Judaism at all. She was a little girl, her name was Miriam. They sent her to day school. Day school is where you go Sunday, actually not day school even, Talmud Torah, where you go Sunday and you learn a little bit about Judaism and Israel and a couple of things. Now this Sunday program was run by Reform Shul. So they didn't teach any Torah, they taught only about Israel. But they hired Orthodox girl teachers. But they told them, no one is allowed to invite a child in their class for Shabbos. But the 5th grade teacher, she was a wonderful young lady, and she fell in love with this little girl, Miriam. So one day she invites Miriam to come to her for Shabbos, even though she knows she's going to lose her job. Miriam comes for Shabbos. We'll say this really fast. It's really a 40-minute story. I'll say it in 4 minutes. So she comes in for Shabbos, and the teacher is about to light the Shabbos candles, and there's standing Miriam, who never saw Shabbos candles in her life. Her mother never lit Shabbos candles. And she says to the Morah, where are my candles? And the Morah says, I'm going to light candles and have you in mind. And Miriam says, no. I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to light candles in my life. Could I please have my own 2 candles? So the Morah said, sure. And she put 2 candles out for little Miriam. And Miriam, how the women do it. And she did the same thing as the Morah. And the Morah said, follow me, make the bracha. And she made the bracha. She was a little kid. She made the bracha. And the Morah said, make a wish. Because the closest time that a woman can get to God is the moment that she lights Shabbos candles. That's the menorah inside the Beis Hamikdash. Women weren't allowed in the Beis Hamikdash. You know why? Because women didn't need to be in the Beis Hamikdash. Because all the things that are in the Beis Hamikdash is in a woman's house. The shulchan is the table. The menorah is the Shabbos licht, the Shabbos candles. So, your menorah, your Shabbos candles, you have the power to pray, to do anything at that point. So anyway, so she lights the candles, and she spends the whole Shabbos there. For some reason, this Morah did not get fired. It's not really important to the story. Now this girl ends up 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. She graduates, whatever she had. But she's not religious at all, and now it's time for her to go. She's in public school, and now it's time for her to go to high school. But being that they lived in Chicago in a very bad neighborhood, they didn't want to go into public high school, so they sent her across the street to a private Catholic school. And Catholic means Christian, for those who don't know. And this little Miriam goes to this Christian school. It's not a big deal for the family because they're not into Judaism anyway. They didn't know much about it. They didn't live in Queens. They lived in Chicago. And she goes to this Catholic school, and her name changes. It's no longer Miriam. It becomes Mary. And she becomes friendly with all the Goyim and all the non-Jews. She totally forgets everything she ever learned. And she's one of the girls, one of the Christian girls. She says prayers. She does the whole thing. She crosses herself. The whole works. She was never really connected to Judaism. The only connection she ever had was at Shabbos. Okay. She goes to college, I think Xavier, something like one of these colleges in Chicago. She meets this guy, Vinny, Italian. Yo, Vinny, And she falls in love with Yo, Vinny. And she's now going to marry Vinny. So, we're just speeding up the story. She's going to marry Vinny. It's Shabbos, Saturday. She's going to get married. And she's going to church. No rabbi, no nothing, right? What rabbi's going to marry her anyway to a non-Jew? And she's going to church, and they're having the services, and she's all excited. She's going to marry Vinny, and her friends, her 3 best friends are coming, right, to pick her up, Susie and Musi and whatever, and they're going to pick her up and bring her to the church. So they come to the house to pick her up. She comes out in her beautiful white gown, whatever. It wasn't much of a gown. She's not Jewish. She wasn't wearing much. And she gets into the limo. It's important for the story. She gets into the limo. And she sits down in the limo, and the 3 girls, and usually I make fun of girls when I do this, but I'm not because I'm saying it really fast. So the 3 girls, they're all wearing the same clothing, they match, whatever they're called, flower girls? No. Bridesmaids, I really know that, I just like to hear you say it. Anyway, the 3 bridesmaids, they're sitting there, and they're like, should we show her, should we show her, should we show her, should we show her, should we show her? Girl stuff. Anyway, so she's like, what do you want to show me? What? No, I'm not going to show you. Yes, you're not. Show it to me, come on. She's okay. If you close your eyes, we bought you a present, a very beautiful present. If you close your eyes, we'll give it to you. Promise not to look. Okay, I won't look. Come on, Mary, close your eyes. So she closes her eyes, and they take out of this velvet pouch this gold necklace, and on the end of the gold necklace is this huge cross. Right? I don't know how you say cross over here, whatever you call cross. What? Slav. So this huge slav with a diamond encrusted. You can't say it's beautiful, but for them it was beautiful, and her eyes are closed. And they put the chain around her neck, and she's like, okay, can I see now? No, you can't see now. Just keep your eyes closed, and the girl that's holding the cross right now, she's like holding it, and she says, I'm going to let go, and then after I let go, you could look. So here you have this Jewish girl with a Jewish soul, who's totally disconnected. She's about to go marry Vinny in a church on Shabbos, and she's wearing a cross. She's going to be wearing a cross. So the girl, her friend Susie, whatever her name is, let's go, Susanna, whatever, let's go, and the cross, as we can imagine, is flying. All of a sudden the cross hits her chest, and when it hits her chest, this voice comes out of her soul from within her. Huge scream. Now you'll hear me in the back. No! See, I told you would. Through Shemayim, through the gates, through the heavens. Boom! Right in front of Hashem's chair. Hashem is sitting in his kisei hakavod, and from earth comes this voice. No! On neshama. The voice of a neshama. It says if we heard the voice of one neshama, if we could hear the voice of one neshama, no human being could stay alive. You hear? This voice screamed no. And Shemayim said, what's going on here? What's up with the neshama screaming no? And the Satan popped up, as he always does, and says, God, this is one of mine. Used to be one of yours, but now it's one of mine. Shabbos doesn't mean anything. She's wearing a cross. She's going to marry Vinny. God, this is one of mine. And this little malach comes prancing out. This little angel comes prancing out. Hold on, Satan. And the Satan says, by the way, she told the story. This is what she imagined happened. And the malach says, I have something to say. And the Satan says, every Jew has a stupid malach that shows up at the worst times. And the Bezdin Shamayla says to the malach, what? Who are you? What are you? He says, I am the malach of the 2 candles that Miriam lit in her teacher's house. She did a mitzvah. Everybody's looking at the Kisei HaKavod. What's Hashem going to say? This is what she's imagining happened. And Hashem says, so how long did she spend at those candles? The Malach says, 40 seconds. She made a bracha, she made a wish. 40 seconds. Hashem says, okay. 40 seconds she gets in the world to change her mind. That's it. Okay, now let's come back to earth. Of course, she didn't hear her neshama screaming. She's happy, she's wearing this cross. They're in their car, and they're going to the church. Everything's great, sunny day, everything's beautiful. Vinny's waiting. It's happening. She didn't know what happened in Shemayim. That Shabbos was a JEP, Jewish Educational Program reunion in Chicago, from all over the United States. They're all getting together. Standing on the corner, 4 girls from Brooklyn, totally lost in Chicago. They have no idea where they are. They're supposed to all meet in a shul, and they don't know where they are. A limo pulls up to the light. The light turns red. The limo stops. The windows are open. The 4 girls look at what's going on. There's a bride, that's very cool, with a big fat gold cross. So one of the girls runs over. I'm not even going to tell you that the girl's name was Miriam, because then you're going to go, right? So I'm not going to tell you what her name was. It's not important, the girl that ran over. But the girl that ran over sees this guy sitting there with a cross and says, excuse me, we're looking for Southwest 27th Street. We're lost. We're from Brooklyn. Of course, this girl takes one look at them, the way they're dressed. She goes, you're Jewish girls, aren't you? And she goes, yes, I am. She goes, well, I'm also Jewish. And I know where you're going. You're going to the temple. I used to go there. Now it's an Orthodox temple. You're probably going to the temple to pray. Today is Shabbos. The Brooklyn girl's like, that ain't no Magen David she's wearing. Something's wrong in this picture. And the light turns green. And the light turns green. And the car begins to move. And Miriam, screams to the driver, pull over, pull over. Pulls over. She goes, listen, we are early. These girls are going to get lost. And this is not a good neighborhood. Just let's take the limo and show them where the synagogue is. I know where it is. So the driver doesn't know. He gets out, opens the door, says, okay, girls, hop in. They're like, no. Mary knew. She goes, no, they're not going to get in. We'll make a blessing and then get in. No. Doesn't work that way. So they're just going to follow us. So he takes the car and he starts driving. And they're walking and he's driving. And the Jep girls are standing there and they're like, we can't let this happen. She's a Jewish girl. We can't let this happen, but what can we do? We're 4 girls from Brooklyn. We can't get involved in this. What can we do? So the girl that went over, it's a Brooklyn girl, a Queens girl, Brooklyn girl, doesn't make a difference. A New York girl, she comes up with a master plan. So when they finally get to the shul, so she says, Mary, say, goodbye, girls. She walks over to Mary, she goes, Mary, you're Jewish. How could you go to a wedding without getting a blessing from the rabbi? She goes, the rabbi you think would give me a blessing? Of course he'll give you a blessing. But you have to go in the synagogue and get a blessing from the rabbi. She goes, you know what? That's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. Imagine getting a blessing from a rabbi right before my wedding. That's so holy. So she gets out of the car, and the girl says to her, but you can't go in there with that on. You got to, with all respect, you got to take the cross off and just leave it in the car. And then, when you come back out, you can do what you want. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, because she's a very good girl, proper girl. She says, oh, I understand. And she takes the cross off, and she puts it down on the chair. And her neshama says, we got a shot here. We got a shot here. The course is off. Facebook's off. The non-Jewish music is off. Pornography is off. The styles and everything, I want to be like the Goyim, is off. The neshama is breathing. He's not choking. Okay? Let's see what happens. By the way, the story, I'll tell you how I know the story. It's a true story. So, they bring her in. Now, you can imagine it was Chicago, thank God, not Brooklyn. Because in walks to the Ezras Noshim, the women's section, this girl in a wedding gown. But being that they're out-of-towners in Chicago, they can handle this. So the Rebbitzin turns to all the ladies. All the ladies are like, oh, because the wedding gown wasn't recovering much. So they're all like, oh. She's like, shh, don't say anything to her. She's about tshuva, and she took the Shabbos Kala thing too seriously. Don't make fun. They don't understand. You know, about you, they don't understand. They heard Shabbos is a bride, so she got dressed up as a bride. Don't say anything. In New York, we would have killed her. What do you think? What? Get out of shul. Get out of here. But, you know, out of town, they're like, you know, they understand a little bit better. Okay. Anyway, she sits down, and the rabbi, and what happened was they were actually singing at the end of Ashkenaz. They sing at the end, I don't know if you guys do, Ein Kelokenu, and then they sing at the end, Anam Zmiros. And usually they have a little kid that sings the Anam Zmiros. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. And she came it was the end of prayers, and she sat there, and they said, 2 more minutes, everything's going to be over. And she just sat there and listened to these children singing, Anim Zmiros, and her neshama began to breathe again. And she didn't even realize what was happening. And finally, after davening, she came downstairs, and the rabbi was a little bit in shock, and the Rebbitzin was like, don't say anything. And the rabbi said, how can I help you? She said, I'm going to marry Vinny, can I get a blessing? And the rabbi said, I hear you, but do you know anything about your Jewish roots? You willing to give that all up? All this beautiful singing that you heard? She goes, I'll tell you the truth, I never had a chance. I went to high school, I went to Christian high school, I went to private college. I really don't know that much about it. He said, so listen, why don't you just put off your marriage for like 2 months or 3 months and learn a little bit about Judaism and see where it goes. She says, really, you'd help me? Your wife and you would help me? He said, sure. By the time she came back to the car, the 3 Italian girls that were in the car, they knew already. They knew the minute that cross came off that Jews have a soul. And if they get a minute to think, they could turn in a second. So the minute she came back to the car, this is what she says. So they were already like, yeah, what? What, you're not going to marry Vinny, right? So she turned to one of them. She said, listen, you and Vinny have something going on behind my back anyway. I've been watching you two. So you know what? I paid for the wedding. I paid for everything already. You marry Vinny. And they all got upset. And they told the driver, let's get the blank out of here. And they drove away, leaving this girl in her gown with his rabbi and the Rebbitzin. And to make a long story short, this rabbi and Rebbitzin took care of her and were makar of her, ended up sending her to Neve in Israel. She ended up becoming very religious. She looked for a shidduch. She met a Baal Tshuva guy that also had gone through the same type of thing. And he ended up becoming a Rav Arel Chassid. Rav Arel Chassid, these are the Chassidim with the big white yarmulkes. Not the nanas, but the ones that live in Meir Sha'arim. And she ended up marrying and having little Chassidish kids with payas. Wait, it's not over. So how do I know the story? So a teacher in my school about 15 years ago, so we have these girls that come to teach, and she had just come from seminary. And she told us that in seminary they send the girls out to many different houses to see how the Sephardim live, how the Hasidim live, different cultures. So this girl went with her friend, and they sent her to this house in the middle of Meir Sha'arim, Rav Arel Chasidim. And they come into this house, and there's a very beautiful woman, very pretty woman, and she's like, okay, girls, put your stuff down. We're going to go light the candles, and her husband leaves. And she comes down the steps to light the candles, and she's in a wedding gown. And these 2 seminary girls are like, what's the deal? Of course, the wedding gown was closed up. Now, it wasn't the same wedding gown, but it was a wedding gown. So they're standing there, and they're like, what's going on over here? And she stands there, and she has 2 little girls and 3 little boys standing next to her children, and she benches, and she lights the candles. And the girl told me that she was standing there from 45 minutes to an hour by those candles, and she had lists of names. Like a kala, people who don't have children, people who are sick, this is what you ladies have to do. When you light candles, not 5 seconds, you're in the Kodesh Kodashim, you're in the Beis HaMikdash, you're the Kohen Gadol. Don't light your candles and run away. You could change everybody's life. So she stood there for 45 minutes and she read every name of someone who's getting divorced and someone who doesn't have children and someone who has cancer. They sat there for 45 minutes and watched this woman cry 45 minutes in her wedding gown, and they were like, this is so freaky. From Arla Chasidim's women light Shabbos candles in their wedding gowns. Weird. Okay, anyway, she finishes lighting, she sits down, and they said to her, my hi, like, what are you doing? So she told them the story. She said, I was a married, and she told them the whole story, and she said, I know that what saved me was those 40 seconds that I lit those candles by my Morah. I know that's what went in front of Hashem. I know that's what saved me. And therefore I made up my mind that the day I found God, in the honor of Shabbos, I was in a wedding gown. And I feel I'm married to Hashem. And therefore Shabbos, in memory that I should never forget where I came from and what I was about to do that day to marry Vinny, this is that gown. I fixed it so that it sneers. This is that gown. I don't want to ever forget what happened. Why am I telling you this story? First of all, it's interesting. 2 years ago I told the story in Long Island. When I finished the story, everybody was leaving. Wow. 5 women ran up to me and said, Rabbi Wallerstein, I hope you don't mind what we're about to say. That story is a lie. I said, excuse me? You made up that story, it can't be true. I'm like, first of all, I didn't make up the story, it is true. But second of all, even if you felt that way, you shouldn't be saying that to me. But by the way, why do you think the story is not true? Rabbi Wallerstein, there is no way that the gown that she fit into before she had those children, she could fit into. You said she had 3 boys and 2 girls. You can't fit into your wedding gown after 5 kids. You listened to my whole story, and that's what you came out with? Yeah. So I said, ladies, I'm sorry. So from now on, when I tell the story, I'd like to make all the young ladies and all the ladies in this room, the guys we don't care. Doesn't matter to us. Because we all still fit into our wedding suit, don't we? We just buy bigger clothing, we think we lose weight. It's one of our tricks. Ladies, so for all of you, I'm going to tell you. When she got married, her wedding gown was a size 2. When she lit the candles in this story, it was a size 9. She took it out, and there's no such thing as a size 9. I know. That's why I'm saying it. Otherwise it wouldn't be tznius to say what size it was. So it was a size 9. Because she took it out, and she took it out. Every kid, she had to take it out. Everybody happy now? Okay? She wasn't a size 2. Okay? Everything's good? Story's good? It's true now? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. We don't understand it, but they understand. Believe me. They would all walk out and say, nah, I don't like the story. Oh, she's a size 10? Good. I like the story. I'll say it over. What's the lesson of the story? Go outside tonight on your way home. All of you, go outside on your way home tonight and stand by a red light. The red light is 40 seconds. That car stopped at a red light. She had 40 seconds to either marry Vinny or have little Hasidic children in Mer Sha'arim married to Rav Arla's. 40 seconds? You could go from marrying Vinny to having Hasidic children? And the answer is yes. She did a chesed. She said, no, the green light turned green. Let's not go through. Let's take them and show them how to go where they need to go. If she would have been like anyone else and said, okay, sorry, I got to go to my wedding, light turned green. 40 seconds. So now we can understand from this story that Arpa cried and let go and ended up with a dog and 100 men. And Rus stuck and ended up with Mashiach. That's how we're going to make it to Shavuos, everybody. You have to be Yosef HaTzadik, you have to be able to live in Golos, to live with all this filth around us, and not let it into your house. You have to be Moshe Rabbeinu and able to overcome or your inabilities. Because those become, your disability becomes your ability. And you have to be David HaMelech. The sink has to be connected to the rest of the plumbing, or you don't get any water. Everyone in this room is going to have red lights in your life. I have them all the time, and you have them all the time. And at that red light, when that comes up in your head, I want to change, I want to be different, and your friends are telling you, no, you got to be like us, and you're standing at the red light, and you got to make a decision. Now, you're going to the party or not? Answer. You're watching a movie with us or not? Answer. You're on Facebook or not? Answer. No, I'm very serious. You got to make the right decision, because the wrong decision, you might end up like Arpa, Chas v'Shalom. You might end up with Vinny, Chas v'Shalom. I know you don't believe that, but that's all it takes. It takes a second. May Hashem give you many, 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 many green, red lights that you can stop and you can think and you can change, and that you should make the right decision. And Bezrat Hashem, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayom. We'll see David, we'll see Mashiach ben David ben Heri b'Yameinu Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, just one more minute of your time, please. Guys, first step is to stop at a red light. That's the first rule. In any event, I got an important message from